Hello, everyone. I'm Contessa of WrestleZone.com, joined by Ring of Honor star Tony Deppen of Violence Unlimited. Tony, how you doing today?
A little tired, kind of early in the morning, and my son didn't take a nap yet. So,
speaking of which, just as you lead off like that, I just gotta say I really commend you for balancing being a father, being a wrestler. You tweeted, I think it was yesterday, I saw that something like the best title I've won as being your father, and it's a picture of you and your kid, and that just really heartwarming stuff, man.
Yeah, I also own a brewery too, so I don't have a lot of time in my life. I'm always exhausted just because if I'm not wrestling, I'm at the brewery working. If I'm not at the brewery working, I'm wrestling. And then throughout the weekdays, I'm with my son and my wife all week. So
I gotta ask, how do you balance it all? That obviously it sounds like a lot to have on your plate.
I wish I could tell you how I balance it. It's kind of just run with it and get it done. It's kind of exhausting. So I think the worst thing is just trying to find the balance of also going to the gym too, because that's part of the job with wrestling. But I managed to squeeze in there somewhere.
That you do, and yeah, you're thriving here in Ring of Honor and beyond. So we'll talk about all of that stuff. But to lead off here, this weekend on Ring of Honor Wrestling, we know that it will be the Violence versus Pure episode of the show, where the Foundation and Violence Limited will be in action here in several matches, and you, Tony, will be facing Rhett Titus. So I guess to start off here, what are your thoughts on facing a veteran and a Ring of Honor kind of, pardon the pun, but what part of the foundation, quite literally, of Ring of Honor here, a guy that's been there for quite a while now, and Rhett Titus?
I wrestled Rhett for the first time like a couple years ago. So I already knew what I was getting into with him. But like you said, he's been there for so long and, he's done a lot, but I've been there for a year and a half and I've already done a lot to begin with. And it's just the beginning for me. Like he's been there for so long and he had to do all that stuff. Like I have a lot more time in Ring of Honor left and I've already done a lot. So I'm going to do way more than he's ever done.
I mean, certainly off to a great start in that regard. You won the TV title in April, and at least in some ways, I think myself included, it was almost, I think it's a little surprising. You're a guy that you were in the Pure tournament and last fall, and then you had a match with Dragon Lee at Final Battle, but it felt like a very quick kind of rise to the title picture, and then to win the title so quickly. Kind of looking back on it now, like what was that experience like to go? It felt like a pretty rapid progression in that sense.
I had no idea what was going on with the TV title. Like I wasn't signed. Well, I still am not signed, but I wasn't really going in there thinking of anything. And then they threw that at me, and I was just like, it was shocking to me as well that they're like, "Oh, this is going to happen." I was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." Like I still had no idea what was going on with it, and it was pretty surreal to me because at the time I only had maybe 5 Ring of Honor matches, right, I think. Right. And I had my first shot at Dragon Lee, that was only my 3rd Ring of Honor match.
Right.
So I didn't have a lot of experience in Ring of Honor, and I was already getting these opportunities. So I guess they see something in me.
Yeah, again, certainly seems like it, and well deserved, obviously. But you mentioned not being signed, and that was definitely one of the questions I wanted to ask. Especially in recent months, I would say. I remember at least that Glory by Honor, no, not Glory by Honor, the show in Philly in August. There's
before Dishonor.
I think that was in September, but there's a movement where a lot of fans have these signs saying like "Sign Tony Deppen," and pretty much every match you're in. Like I remember it was the tag team match with Violence Limited. Chris Dickinson and Brody kind of brought the signs in the ring, showed them off, and there's this movement of everyone wants the Ring of Honor to sign Tony Deppen. I would imagine that is it fair to say that's kind of your goal, kind of at least in the short term, that you do want to get signed and to keep kind of progressing in that sense, because you mentioned they haven't been signed yet.
I would like to sign with Ring of Honor, but due to the pandemic, things shut that down. I still don't know what's going on with it. Like I foregoed a lot of opportunities because I don't want to go somewhere else and like I don't want to go somewhere and have a match for 3 minutes and lose and make me look weak at Ring of Honor. Like I don't want to do that. Like I don't want to I don't want to take all the work Ring of Honor is put into me and kind of defeat that by losing in 2-3 minutes. So like I've been holding out elsewhere to go other places just because I want to work with Ring of Honor and that's where I see myself. And I want to be there because they're the ones that took the first opportunity on me. So if it happens, I don't know. I'm hoping because I'm getting tired of having to continuously wrestle 3-4 times a week just to make a living because this is my full-time job. And like independent, like there's no guarantees on the independent, and COVID was a prime example of that. I legitimately lost all of my savings because of COVID. And like my wife was pregnant and she's like, I don't want you to go back to work, just do this and that because we don't want to take a risk.
Well, of course not, and thankfully, at least in some ways, I feel like the world's made some progress. We said it's not the way it was, at the very least at the outside of things where it's like, shows are back and it's at least more feasible to, you mentioned, it's exhausting to wrestle sometimes, like, but at least the opportunity and the abilities there rather than, again, the very beginning of the pandemic, that definitely wasn't the case. So you mentioned the work the Ring of Honor has kind of put into you and the opportunities that you're getting here. And I mentioned a minute ago with this Violence versus Pure episode, highlighting you and Violence Limited here. So I do want to ask, what have your thoughts kind of been on the experience of working with guys like Brody King, Chris Eggenson, and a Ring of Honor original like Homicide? Like, what's your feeling on working with that group?
I'm actually like pretty good friends with Chris. Like we started off on a bad foot when I first met him. He didn't like me at all because like this was many years ago because people said I looked like him when he was younger, even though I think I'm older than Chris. But they're like, he looks like a mini you. And Chris didn't know me at the time, so and he didn't think I was that good of a wrestler. So he got really mad about that and just never really liked me, never gave me the opportunity. But over time, after wrestling him multiple times and being around him almost every week, sometimes we just started a really good friendship. So I was really stoked to be working with Chris and Brody. I've known Brody for a little bit, like just through PWG, and he did a GCW show a while ago. So Brody was one of the first people to say, he's like, Tony, this is what we're going to do. And I'd like that to be your spot. I was like, okay, awesome. It's like the fact that Brody saw it in me, to bring me on board was awesome. And Homicide, I've known him for so long. And just really cool. Like I'm working with Homicide. I've grown up watching independent wrestling. So just, it's cool to be working alongside somebody like Homicide. He has so much experience. Like whenever I have a question, I'll go up to Homicide, like, yo, D, what do you think of this? And he'll like, okay, that sounds good, but let's do it this way. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense too. So it's just good to get his opinion from things as well.
Absolutely. A guy that's been, world champion. It's been very, very, well established, well traveled in Ring of Honor and beyond. So I can definitely see that. To me, it's just interesting, this feud with Violence Limited and the Foundation. You were in the Pure title tournament, and for at least initially here in Ring of Honor, it felt like you kind of more even indirectly aligned with the Pure side of things. So then to see you join up with Violence Limited, and then maybe, if not surprising, it was definitely kind of a turn in a way. So I have to ask, kind of like, have you, or would you think that you're more kind of in alignment with the Violence Limited philosophy compared to the Foundations? And if so, why would that be the case?
Yeah, because I'll be honest, like at first, like when the Pure tournament got announced almost 2 years ago, when it was supposed to be in like Columbus and Pittsburgh, I was supposed to be part of it. And at the time, nobody was really doing that type of stuff, like style. Like then you had John, Tracy. I was actually into it a lot. Like on the indies, I would do that a lot. But after they announced the tournament and they actually did the whole tournament, we had such an influx of people just like, I want to be a pure wrestler. I want to be a pure wrestler. And it got to the point where it was boring. And that's what it comes down to. And it's not my style. Like, I don't want to sit there and watch somebody grapple for 20 minutes and barely do anything. There's no excitement in that for me. Like, I'm over that. Like that's why I jumped with Violence Unlimited. I like fast-paced wrestling. I like car crash wrestling. It's fun. It's exciting, especially when nobody else is really doing it on like a show. Like you have a show, like John wants to make every single like thing in Ring of Honor pure. Sorry, but I don't want to watch a Ring of Honor show full of pure wrestling. That's for sure. Because I'll instantly change the channel. I want to see people get dropped on their heads. I want to see people throw things at each other, put each other through tables or something. I want some excitement in my wrestling. And that's what Violence Unlimited brings. Like, we want excitement. We want, like, can we wrestle? Yeah. Chris is very well experienced in, I think it's one martial arts. I don't want to get it wrong and Chris gets mad at me. And then I've wrestled some of the best pure wrestlers in the world. Like, I can hang with them. It's just at the end of the day, we want to be different and we want to make a point.
You mentioned car crash wrestling having more exciting, and I think the most natural comparison, especially I mentioned the August show, Glory by Yonder, you're at the 2300 Arena. It feels like in a lot of ways this kind of throwback to ECW, that kind of era of that style, and seeing it again literally in the former ECW arena, it felt like a very fitting match there. So to me, like, is that a fair kind of comparison, that at least like it's kind of some recognition, or at least like kind of tip of the hat to that era, to that style of ECW and what they represented?
Yeah, like Chris and I, hold on one second. Chris and I grew up like watching, well, I imagine Brody and D as well, all of the ECW stuff. And Chris and I are also heavily into old FMW and stuff like that from Japan. Like we like off the wall things and super exciting wrestling. And that's what it comes down to. Like, that's what we want. And that's what we're going to give people. Like, every time I've wrestled in a singles match, every single person said it's one of the best matches tonight. Me and Dragon Lee just go out there and have insane matches. Or like when even in the match when Dragon Lee and I, when it was LFI versus Violence Unlimited, me and Dragon Lee ran some spots and people were like, wow, that was probably the most exciting part of the match. It's what we do. Like, yeah. I'm not going to go in there and mail it in. I'm not at Ring of Honor just for a paycheck. I'm at Ring of Honor because I want Ring of Honor to succeed and go back to what it was, because there's so much potential there.
Would you say that going back to what Ring of Honor was, I mean, because that strikes me, because the foundation has said pretty much the same thing, that they want to take Ring of Honor back to the foundation of pure wrestling. But does that to you mean more of that, you said a minute ago, car crash style, or that more exciting style? Like, what does that mean to you?
I think there's need to be more excitement. There's need more diversity. You're not going to make Ring of Honor successful by every match being pure. I will tell you that right now, as somebody that still wrestles on the independents, which most of the guys at Ring of Honor don't. I see everything. I'm out there. I see companies that are independent drawing 1,200 people on a show. And, there's some pure matches on it, but guess what? There are car crashes. There's stories. Like, that's what wrestling needs to get back to its foundations, this foundation of there needs to be some storytelling. There needs to be a little bit of everything. You can't just have one show of everything, because that's where you become stale and nobody wants to watch that.
Certainly not. So we've been talking a lot about the foundations specifically here, but I feel like in every interview I do at this point, I have to ask about the more general stable warfare at this point. We've got Violence Limited, the foundation, but also LFI, as mentioned, Dragon Lee a minute ago, and also Shane Taylor Promotions. So as this kind of continues to escalate here, where do you kind of see Violence Limited going in that stable warfare as we kind of move forward here? Because it's been really heating up just for several months now.
Honestly, I frankly don't care where it goes. The only thing that I care about is us accumulating more gold. Like, we had the tag titles, we lost them, unfortunately. I had the title, the TV title, I lost that, unfortunately. But in the future, I see Brody going on to become the heavyweight champion, and Chris and D getting those tag titles back. And I want another shot at Dragon Lee. Final Battle's coming up. Let's run that back. It'll be a year that day that him and I had the match, so why not?
I
That's
just
all I care about at the end of the day. I want I want us to have the gold back that we had, and I want us to be the most successful stable in Ring of Honor, and we're going to do that by defeating everybody, which we've pretty much done that. I think, yeah, we lost to LFI, I believe. Did we?
I think so.
Yeah, that was about it. When it comes down to, and then like I've been on a winning streak at Ring of Honor. Like I beat everyone I was putting. We beat the past, present, and future team. I think I've only lost. The only match I've lost in the past year and a half at Ring of Honor was against Dragon Lee, and I lost to LSG, and that was almost a year ago.
Right.
So I've been on a pretty good win streak.
That you are. And you mentioned wanting to get more gold here, and you mentioned they beat the past, present, future team. I also remember that Valentine defeated PCO, Danhausen, Demak Famida, and I believe Sledge was in there as well. So with that in mind, it was just officially announced those guys will be facing Shane Taylor Promotions on the Halloween episode in 2 weeks. So with this kind of pursuit of gold, would you potentially be interested in maybe the 6-man titles, given that you are?
Hey, Shane's always talking, so why not? He's always running his mouth about something online, so we'll gladly go against them for the. Well, hell, we'll take all the titles. They'll be even better, and then we'll retire then. Take all the belts with us, or go somewhere else. I don't know. If I'm not signed, I could have done that when I was the TV champion. I could have just went somewhere else with the TV title.
Right, and very naturally there. You set up talk about somewhere else. I did want to touch on some of this GCW stuff. You faced comedian Ron Funches last month, and it was just it was a match that got a lot of publicity and a lot of kind of buzz in the wrestling world and even beyond, given it's Ron Funches. He's a very successful comedian. So looking back on that experience, what was that like, facing a guy that hadn't really stepped in the ring before, and kind of being involved in that match that definitely had a bit of a spotlight on it?
It was pretty cool to be. Now my son just bit me. It was pretty cool. Like the thing is, I didn't know who Ron was at first, and that's no stab at him. I just don't watch a lot of TV or movies. And then somebody's like, "Oh, he was Cooper in Trolls." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I knew that then. And he was a fan of me for a while, and we just started talking, and we decided to do something, and GCW asked, they're like, "Hey, can we host that?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure." And it was weird getting ready to step in the ring with somebody that had no experience, because, hey, stop. Just because I wasn't sure how it was going to go. Like, I've been in the ring with people that have had limited experience,
right,
but I've never been in a ring with somebody that had no experience. There's a big difference. So I remember, because X-Pac was there, and he took me aside, "Tony, don't be letting him do this or that, like, I don't want you to get hurt." And I was like, I got it. So, but I had a lot of fun with it, and the exposure got me was awesome. Like, I had a lot of people talk. I had clips on the late Nate James Corden show, which I had no idea what that was until it was on TV. So like, the overall experience was great. And then I got to go to the Improv and call him out. And I don't know much about anything except for wrestling and beer. And my friend's really big into comedy, and he's like, "Tony, you realize you performed on the Improv?" Pretty much. I go, "What's that mean?" And he's just like, "Dude, that's like the biggest comedy club." And then my dad messaged, he's like, "Your stepmom was at the Improv 30 years ago." Wow. I was like, "Oh," I was like, "That's cool." I was like, "I didn't know that." Like, I just thought it was another comedy club.
Well, looking back on the match, what did you think about just kind of how it went? You mentioned there being a big difference between a guy with no experience versus little experience. And again, with Ron getting in there, having no experience and then presumably training for it, but that was being his first match. How do you think it? Were you happy with it? And what do you think of his performance?
I thought went as well as it possibly could. It would not get it. It was impossible to get any better. And it definitely wasn't impossible to get any worse though. Like it could have been way worse. He was nervous as hell. Like, even though he's performed in front of thousands of people, like stand up, he was very nervous because I even said to him, I was like, you performed in front of more people than this, right? He's like, yeah, about like 20,000. I was like, well, I was like, then you've got this. I was like, there's gonna be no problem. And he was really concerned about the Canadian Destroyer because he's never done that before. And Ron's like 280. He's lost a lot of weight, but he's still a big boy. And he's just like I called, I was like, hey, I want you to do a Canadian Destroyer. He's just like, I've never done it before. I was like, I don't really give a shit. You're going to do it. And we did it, and he hit it. And he sat up and he started like cheering him. So he's like, oh my God, yeah. And I was like, hey, stop. Like, let's go back into this. He goes, oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, that was definitely one of my favorite parts of the match, because like, who would have thought you'd see him breaking out a Destroyer like that? But I remember it was just a lot of fun. Danhausen got involved, and it was a very just kind of it was just a fun match, and you walked away with a win. But I thought it was definitely a fun time all around. So with that in mind, now that you've had that one match with Ron Funches, would you want to face any other? If I don't want to limit it to just comedians, but are there any other comedians or anyone other maybe that's not in the wrestling world necessarily?
Oh, I'd love to, because it's a lot of fun. There's a story behind it, and it was easier on my body compared to doing some match like and then like that brings me back to a point, like wrestling needs diversity. Like when I did that, it showed that I could have a match with somebody who has no experience, but I also go out and have a match where I do a car crash for 12 minutes. I have also done a 2-hour Ironman match. Like, my diversity, it's being shown and displayed by stuff like that. And I appreciate being able to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was looking through your match list here, and the 2-hour Ironman match really stood out to me. Looking back on that, what was that like? Because that's a long time to be out there, putting a match on and just trying to compete at a high level like that.
Yeah. So that was a Fight Forever show. So there's no fans whatsoever.
Right.
And the building had no heat. And it was dead ass, like I think February, or something like that. Very cold. And I just remember the owner GCW message. He was like, hey, do you think you could do 2 hours? Because like at GCW, I'm the guy that has the cardio. Like everybody's always like, oh, like Tony will blow you up. Like, he'll blow you up if you don't step up and take yourself serious. It's like, yeah, I can. I'm like, I think I could do 2 hours. Like I thought, like I was just like, I should be good at least. So I just researched a lot of Iron Man matches. Like I watched the CM Punk, Chris Hero one. That was like over an hour. I think an hour and a half or something like that. So I watched that and just watched the pacing of it and kind of studied that. And I took that approach into the match. And the first hour, it went fine. I was just like, oh, we've got this. Like, I'm good. And then that second hour, like the way that I had it envisioned in my head did not go according to plan. And we got to the point where it's like, I had like 20 minutes to fill of just stuff on the fly. So Jordan and I just started calling things on the fly. Like, okay, we're going to do this randomly, this here, there, take a pinfall here. Cause we just kind of, overestimated where we were going to be at with the time, or underestimated, I guess. Yeah. Underestimated. Cause like, I remember like, oh, we'll do this for a couple minutes. And it got to the point where we did that. And I was like, oh, that only killed 2 minutes. Like we've got another like 12 extra minutes to fill. But overall, like we did that. And I just remember the end of it when that like Jordan won. And I just remember the second that bell rang, I was so relieved. And like, I just listened to him like, yo, we fucking did it, dude. Like, that's hard. Like, yeah. Was it the most amazing match? I feel like we could have cleaned up some spots, but it's still 2 hours to wrestle like straight. And especially like this was right after a lot of mandates got lifted, and we weren't wrestling as frequent as we were. Like if this was right before the pandemic shut down, I was wrestling 4 or 5 times a week. And then I went from that to like 2 times a month. So to be able to do that on limited ring experience, like I was having a year and a half prior to that, like I was just like, holy hell, like I still got it in me.
No, it's an amazing accomplishment. So,
that pandemic hurt me physically as well as it did financially, because there was a lot of just sitting around doing nothing. Because like there is like a playground on the street. I said to my wife, I was like, oh, I'll run down there and like, do some pull. She's like, they closed that park off. So like, you can't go in there. I was like, okay, cool. Like, and I don't like running the dead ass of winter because it's too cold.
Yeah. So again, I said earlier, but thankfully we're getting slowly into at least a more a world where things are at least a little more possible of working out, of wrestling more regularly here. So that's definitely a silver lining. But you mentioned we were talking about this diversity in wrestling. We were talking about Ron Funches and having that as like kind of a different kind of thing. So along that same vein, very recently the Briscoe brothers, the best tag team in history, walked through the quote unquote forbidden door, and they'll be competing at GCW this weekend. So with that in mind, like to me that collaboration, A, is very welcome. B, maybe even overdue. And to me, I'm a New Jersey native, so that's very exciting. It's like, Ring of Honor, GCW. It makes sense to me. I'm excited about it. And with you regularly competing at both places now, what do you think about that collaboration? Or at least at the very least of the Briscoes, and potentially any more beyond that.
I think it's fantastic. I know some people will not enjoy it, and the thing is, Ring of Honor has great product. We have great wrestlers. We just need more people to see that. And giving the opportunity for Ring of Honor and GCW to work together is going to be beneficial towards Ring of Honor. And anybody that does not see that, then I don't know what to really tell them except for get over it. Because it's going to do a lot of things, and it's going to be awesome too. Like, I remember Dickinson and I talking about, it'd be cool. Like, well, I was waiting until I got signed to say anything because I didn't want to be stepping on toes and be like, hey, let's work with GCW. And then randomly, the owner of GCW showed up to Ring of Honor. He's like, oh, I'm like, what are you doing here? He's like, nothing. And then I remember, hold on. Sorry about that. I had a phone call. I had to hang up on him. I don't know who the hell it was anyways. It's okay. Actually, I think it was coming from where Ring of Honor headquarters is. Whatever. Not my problem. So anyways, I remember Dickinson and I were talking. We're like, oh man, it'd be cool to have the Briscoes in GCW, because the Briscoes have done maybe one independent wrestling show in the past 10 years, and that was PWG. And I don't even count that because PWG has the working relations with Ring of Honor. So I didn't know it was going to be this early because I wasn't on that show because I was at a wedding. And if I'm at a wedding or with my friends, I don't really look at my phone. So I got to the show and I was talking to MLJ and I was just like, oh, anything exciting happened last night? He's like, oh, I lost my voice. I was like, oh, what happened at the end of the main event? Oh, he's like, oh, it wasn't the main event. He's like, it was when the Briscoes came. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, the Briscoes were there. I was like, I missed it. And my wife loves the Briscoes. And I had to go up to her. I was like, hey, Mark and Jay were here. And she's like, are you fucking kidding me? She's like, I missed them. It's like, yeah. And she's like, oh, damn it. And now she's bummed that the show is in where they're wrestling is in LA. So she won't get to see that.
But it's still very, very exciting, and kind of looking forward here, at least, in theory, how would you want to see maybe that? You mentioned that the working relationship with PWG, would you kind of ideally hope for something similar, or like as someone that does, compete for both companies, how would you kind of like to see that potentially progress moving forward?
I'd like an old school, almost like the old school CCW Ring of Honor feud. That's what it boils down to, because Ring of Honor is the complete opposite of GCW in every way, shape, or form. Like Brett runs GCW by himself. He does all the promotion by himself. Then you have Ring of Honor owned by Sinclair Broadcasting. They have a team to do a lot of stuff.
Right.
So we're both companies are just not the same in any way, shape, or form. So I would love to see the way they would progress, and I'll be honest, I think a lot of the Ring of Honor guys would benefit working there, and they'll feel the energy at GCW. And I feel like maybe that will reinvigorate their passion to maybe go towards the indies a little bit, like step away, not leave Ring of Honor, but branch out and go to the indies and let people know that Ring of Honor is here. I think the exclusivity of contracts kind of hurt things when there's so much wrestling out there right now, because it's free promotion. Every time I go to a show, people bill me as a Ring of Honor star.
Right.
And since I'm not signed, I can work these places, and I go out there and they're like, oh, Ring of Honor wrestler, Tony Deppen. Right there, they're saying the name of Ring of Honor. That's free market right there. And every time it's being said, somebody that may not know what Ring of Honor is, hears that, goes, checks it out. Like when I won the TV title, I went up to management and I go, hey, I still work the indies. I want to take the belt on to the indies. And they're like, okay, if you want to do that, please, just follow these rules when you do so, and you could do it all you want. I was like, sweet. So I was in Texas, I was in Massachusetts, I was in New Jersey, I was in California, I was in all these places with the belt. And there's some people who are like, I didn't even know Ring of Honor had a TV belt.
Right.
And now they do, because I was out there with the belt. Like I took it upon myself because I want people to know Ring of Honor still out there, and I want people to know that Ring of Honor is still putting out a good product. But the second that when AEW started and everybody left for AEW, people automatically just counted out Ring of Honor. And that shouldn't be the case. We're still putting out good product. Overall, I feel like we had the best product. When it comes to breaks down to wrestling, the thing was AEW is they have a lot of car crash wrestling, which I like, but that's the whole show is almost that one. Sometimes it like I said, when you oversaturate a show, it becomes loses its value to me.
Right.
And I feel like Ring of Honor offers everything right now, as long as John doesn't get his way and make every single division pure, which so far is not the case because he just lost the pure title.
Yeah. But the idea of, at the very least, in some capacity, more of this cooperation with GCW and Ring of Honor sounds great. I think promotionally, and it could be very beneficial. You mentioned it benefiting the wrestlers as well. It sounds like a win-win. I very much hope to see more of it here moving forward, but we'll have to wait and see on that front. But otherwise, here as we wrap up, in Ring of Honor and beyond, again, you are still on the independent scene. What are your kind of goals? At least in a general sense in the wrestling world, again, could be in Ring of Honor or just in a more general approach?
Well, my main goal is it's honestly one of my final goals. Well, actually, I still have to go to the UK. I was supposed to go there, but COVID shut that down. But one of my biggest goals was always to get signed. And I'm a realist, so I never thought it was going to happen. And I just kept making a list of things to do in wrestling. I kept achieving them. I wanted to go to Japan, did that. I wanted to wrestle PWG, did that. Did this, did that. And I was just I guess I could get signed. And shortly after that, people were talking about me coming into Ring of Honor. So I was just okay, cool. It's this is my goal now. I want, I'm not there for a paycheck, but guaranteed money would be pretty nice, especially that I do have a son and my wife is currently pregnant again.
Right.
So I like the stability. I'd like that, but I would still try to make sure I could do the independents, only select ones. And I just want to keep I want to help build Ring of Honor's product. That's what I want. That's the end of the day. But what I like to have selfish things go back to Japan and go to the UK, wrestle in Mexico. Yes, that they're up there. But right now, I want people to see that Ring of Honor is a viable product for wrestling and not just discontinue it because they don't have the Young Bucks and all the other stars that they had prior, because we still do have stars. We have the trade. Like I think Shane Taylor promotions are great, and not enough people know that. And I feel like that, people need to see that. And if I could help get eyes on that product in some way, shape, or form, then I will feel happy about my career. Because like, even when I do wrestle people, I always wrestle, like they call me the gatekeeper of GCW, because I wrestle the young kids. I help them get over. And I like that more than anything. I like helping. I like trying to build wrestling. I want to have wrestling better than I left than I found it, which it is currently, because wrestling sucked when I first started.
Well, I couldn't agree more. Everything that you said about Ring of Honor here. So, speaking of which, to see those Ring of Honor stars, to see that they are still putting on a good product, including and still having very, very talented people, including yourself, Tony Deppen. Make sure to watch Ring of Honor Wrestling this weekend, where Tony will be facing Red Titus. And then again, it will be the special Violence versus Pre episode. But otherwise, here, Tony, thank you so much for your time today, and I wish you the very best moving forward.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.